The night was heavy with silence. Clouds rolled over the two moons of the alien world, hiding their pale light. A cold wind howled through the jagged rocks, carrying the smell of dust and metal. On the edge of a towering cliff stood a group of alien figures. Their armor shone faintly, silver and cruel, and their eyes glowed like sharp blades in the darkness. In the center of the group was a small girl. Her skin shimmered with a faint blue glow, almost like starlight trapped inside a living body. Her eyes were wide with fear, but her jaw was firm. She was no ordinary child, she was a royal, born of the alien bloodline that ruled the stars. Yet tonight there was no throne for her. Tonight there was only the edge of the abyss. The leader, tall and draped in black robes, stepped forward. His voice was cold as ice. She is cursed. The old blood has no place in our world. If she lives, the future of our empire will burn. The others murmured in agreement, their voices mixed with the sound of the restless wind. The girl trembled, not from the cold but from betrayal. These were her people. These were her own kin. She had trusted them, laughed with them, listened to their stories. Now they called her a danger. One of the armored guards seized her by the arm. She struggled, kicking and screaming, but her small body was no match for the iron grip. The cliff loomed ahead, endless darkness below. Please. Her voice broke, but her eyes still held fire. I am not a curse. I am not your enemy. The leader raised his hand for silence. No more words. The council has spoken. Her light must vanish. The guard dragged her forward. The stone scraped beneath her feet. The abyss waited with open jaws. Far away, hidden among the shadows of the rocks, another pair of eyes watched. A stranger not of this world stood silently. His figure was small against the vast night, his form covered in a rough cloak. He was human, an outsider unnoticed by the alien royals. He had stumbled onto this scene by chance or perhaps by fate. His heart pounded as he watched the cruel ritual unfold. His mind screamed to act, to shout, to run forward. But his body stayed still. He knew he could do nothing against these armored giants. He was just one man, helpless, powerless. Yet he could not look away. The guard lifted the girl high, holding her over the cliff. Her eyes caught the humans for the briefest moment. Though the distance was great, though she did not know him, something in her gaze spoke. It was not fear, it was a plea. A plea for life, a plea for tomorrow. Then, with no mercy, the guard hurled her into the abyss. The girl's scream cut through the night. It echoed between the stone walls, fading as she fell deeper and deeper into the darkness. The human flinched, his breath caught in his throat. The wind swallowed her voice, leaving only silence. The leader lowered his hand. It is done, he said. The group turned away, their footsteps fading as they vanished into the night. The cliff was empty once more. Only the whisper of the wind remained. The human stepped forward, his body trembling. He looked down into the abyss. It was endless, a sea of shadows. No one could survive such a fall. Not a child, not even a royal. His fists clenched. His heart ached with anger at the cruelty he had witnessed. Yet deep inside, a spark lit within him. He could not explain it. Something told him the story was not over. The girl's eyes, the glow of her skin, the strength in her voice, they were not meant to end here. He whispered to the night, though no one could hear him. If you live, I will find you. The abyss gave no answer. Only the wind replied, carrying his words away. The human turned back, melting into the shadows. But the memory of the girl stayed in his mind, burning like fire. It would stay there for years, haunting him, guiding him, pushing him toward a destiny he could not yet imagine. And far below the cliff, hidden in the embrace of darkness, a faint light flickered. A weak pulse, a small breath, a sign of life. The girl had not been lost. The desert winds had not changed in 15 years. They still howled across the cliffs, sweeping over the broken stones, carrying the taste of dust. But the world itself had changed. Where once there had been only silence, now there were human colonies. Settlements of steel and light stood scattered across the barren valleys. Small sparks of earthborn courage on an alien land. Among these settlers was a young man named Aaron. He was not a soldier, nor a leader. He was simply an explorer, restless and curious, the kind of man who could not stay behind walls for long. The others called him reckless, but he called it hunger, the hunger to know what lay beyond the horizon. One evening, as the twin suns slid behind the jagged mountains, Aaron sat by the campfire of his small outpost. His scanner device blinked with strange signals. Faint, irregular, almost like a heartbeat buried deep beneath the earth. He frowned, leaning closer. The readings pointed toward the old valley, the same cursed valley where no one dared to go. The locals whispered about that place. They said strange lights burned there at night, and sometimes, if the wind was strong, a scream could be heard, faint but sharp, as though it rose from the abyss itself. The older settlers warned the young, stay away from the valley. Aaron listened to the warnings, but deep inside, curiosity was stronger than fear. The signal on his scanner pulled at him like a hidden voice. It was not just noise. It felt alive that night, he dreamed. In the dream, he stood on the cliff. The sky was darker than black, and in the shadows he saw a figure, a girl with glowing skin, her eyes burning like twin stars. She stretched out her hand toward him. Her lips moved, but he could not hear the words. Still, he understood. She was calling him. He woke with a start, his body covered in sweat. The scanner still pulsed faintly, echoing the rhythm of the dream. The next morning, Aaron packed his gear. A plasma torch, a climbing harness, and a battered rifle, more for comfort than real use. His friends asked him where he was going. He gave them only a half smile. Out there, he said, to see what the valley hides. The journey was harsh. The cliffs rose like walls of stone, sharp and unforgiving. The sun beat down on his back as he climbed, step after step following the signal deeper into the forbidden land. The closer he came, the heavier the air felt. It was as if the valley itself carried a memory of pain, as if the rocks remembered the night of betrayal 15 years ago. The silence here was deeper, heavier, pressing against his ears. Aaron reached the edge of the abyss. He stood where the stories had begun, where the settlers said a curse had been born. He stared down into the endless shadows. His stomach twisted, yet his heart pounded with strange excitement. Then something happened. His scanner flashed wildly, the signal stronger than ever. A burst of energy swept through the air, rattling his bones. The ground beneath his feet seemed to hum as though the valley itself was alive. He knelt, touching the stone. It was warm, pulsing faintly, like a heartbeat. Suddenly, a memory not his own filled his mind, a scream sharp and desperate cutting through the night. The image of a small girl, her arms reaching out as she fell into the abyss. He gasped and stumbled back. The vision faded, but the feeling remained. She had been here. She had fallen here, and somehow her presence still lingered. Aaron whispered into the wind, though he did not know why. "Who are you?" The valley gave no answer, but the scanner beeped again, leading him toward a hidden path carved into the rock. Narrow, dangerous, winding downward into the abyss. He tightened the straps of his harness and set his jaw. He did not know what he would find below. Treasure, ruins, a ghost, or perhaps nothing but shadows. But one thing was certain, he had to know, and so, with the sun setting behind him and the valley opening its jaws below, Aaron took his first step into the darkness, unseen by him. Far below the cliff something stirred. A faint glow flickered in the blackness like a candle fighting the night. The light pulsed once, twice, then steadied as if answering his call. The girl had waited, and now, after 15 long years, her story was about to continue. The path into the abyss twisted like a scar through the stone. Narrow walls pressed close on both sides, and the air grew colder with every step Aaron took. His light beam shook slightly in his hand, throwing long shadows on the jagged rock. The silence was heavy, broken only by the crunch of his boots and the soft hum of his scanner. He had been climbing for hours. The surface world was far above now, a fading memory. Down here, the stone walls seemed endless, swallowing the faint glow of his lamp. His heart pounded, but not from fear alone. Something deeper pulled him onward. An unseen force, as if the valley itself wanted him to keep walking. At last, the path opened into a wide cavern. The ceiling stretched high, glittering with strange crystals that glowed faintly blue. Aaron froze. The cavern looked unnatural, too perfect, too precise. This was not shaped by nature. Someone or something had built this long ago. His scanner beeped wildly, pointing him to the far end of the cavern. There, half buried in dust and stone, stood a strange chamber. Its walls were smooth, carved with alien markings, and in the center, resting on a raised platform, was a pod. Aaron's breath caught. The pod was unlike anything he had ever seen. Its surface shimmered faintly, and through the transparent shell he saw her, a girl. She lay still, her body suspended in a liquid glow. Her skin gave off a faint blue light, just as in his dream. Her hair floated around her face like a halo. She looked no older than him, though something in her presence felt ancient. Aaron stepped closer, his footsteps echoing in the hollow chamber. He pressed a hand to the glass. The pod was warm, almost alive. For a moment he thought she might only be a vision, but then her eyelids moved. His breath caught. He whispered, though he knew she could not hear. "You're real." The pod reacted to his voice. Symbols lit up along its surface, glowing brighter, faster. A low hum filled the cavern, building into a pulse that shook the ground. Aaron stumbled back, raising his arm to shield his eyes. With a sharp hiss, the pod split open, spilling a burst of light and steam. The girl gasped, her chest rising as if she had been drowning and finally reached the surface. Her eyes snapped open, bright, glowing, filled with strange fire. She coughed, struggling to breathe, then looked at him. For a moment, time froze. Aaron stared at her and she at him. Neither spoke, but in her eyes he saw recognition, as if she had been waiting for this very moment. Finally, her lips moved. Her voice was weak, broken, but clear. "You came back." Aaron's heart raced. He shook his head slowly. I don't understand. I've never met you before." She blinked, confusion passing over her face. Then she whispered again, her hand trembling as she reached toward him. 15 years? I waited. Her body swayed, too weak to stand. Aaron rushed forward, catching her before she fell. Her skin was warm against his hands, yet it glowed faintly as if energy flowed beneath the surface. "Easy," he said softly. "You're safe now." Safe. The word tasted strange in this place of shadows. The girl looked around the cavern, her eyes narrowing at the pod now empty behind her. Pain flickered across her face, followed by anger. She whispered something in a language Aaron could not understand. Sharp, heavy words filled with emotion. "Who are you?" Aaron asked, his voice low. She turned back to him. Her eyes glowed brighter, and for a moment he felt a pressure in his mind, as if she was trying to reach inside. He stumbled back, but the pressure faded. She shook her head, breathing hard. "I am not supposed to live," she whispered. "They threw me away, but I did not die." Aaron froze. His dream, the stories of the cursed valley, the scream in the wind, all of it connected in that single moment. This was the girl, the one who had been cast into the abyss, her gaze locked onto his. "They feared me. They feared what I could become. But you," her voice softened. "You found me." Aaron felt the weight of her words. He had no answer. He had not come to be a hero. He had come out of curiosity, and yet here she was, alive because of it. The girl tried to rise again, and this time her strength returned. She stood tall, her eyes glowing brighter, her presence filling the cavern with silent power. "My name," she said, her voice steadier now, "is Lyra, last daughter of the royal bloodline. And you, human, you have tied your fate to mine." Aaron swallowed hard. He did not know what this meant, not yet. But deep inside, he knew one thing for certain. His life had just changed forever. The cavern shook again, dust falling from the ceiling. Somewhere in the darkness, a distant sound echoed, metal grinding, stone shifting. Lyra's face hardened. "They know," she whispered. "They will come." Aaron's grip tightened on his rifle. His heart raced, not from fear alone, but from a strange, unstoppable fire burning inside. Whatever he had awakened here, it was only the beginning. The cavern walls still trembled as the echoes faded. Dust rained from above, settling on the strange alien symbols carved into the stone. Aaron gripped his rifle tightly, scanning the shadows for movement. But Lyra did not look afraid. She stood tall, glowing faintly, her eyes sharp with memory. For the first time, Aaron saw her not as the fragile girl from the pod, but as something far greater. "You said they will come," Aaron whispered, his voice low. Who are they?" Lyra turned to him slowly. The glow of her skin painted her features in a ghostly light. Her gaze was steady, filled with sorrow and anger. "My own blood," she said. "My own family. They wear crowns and call themselves rulers, but they are cowards. They fear what they cannot control." Aaron frowned. 15 years ago, they threw you from the cliff." Her jaw tightened. For a moment, silence stretched between them. Then she nodded. "They called me cursed," she said softly. "They said I carried the old fire, the power of the first bloodline. It was true. I am the last child born with a gift. I can touch the machines of my ancestors, the machines that shaped worlds. They feared this power. They feared I would rise above them, Aaron stepped closer. So they tried to erase you. Her eyes flickered toward him, sharp with pain. They did more than try. They hurled me into death itself, but the abyss kept me alive. Or perhaps it was fate. The machines hidden in the deep found me, and they held me in sleep until someone would come. She looked at him then, her glowing eyes filled with strange fire. Until you came. Aaron felt the weight of her gaze. He shook his head. I'm no savior. I'm just a man who followed a signal. Lyra tilted her head almost like a question. Yet you came where no one else dared. The valley is feared. Even your kind whispers about ghosts. But you walked into the dark. You heard my call. Aaron's grip on his rifle tightened. He wanted to argue, but part of him knew she was right. Something deeper than curiosity had pulled him here, something he could not explain. Lyra stepped closer, her glow brushing against him like warmth from a flame. Do you know what this means? She asked. He shook his head. It means you are part of this now, she said, whether you wish it or not. The bloodline of my people is broken. I stand alone. But if I rise, I cannot rise alone. Aaron hesitated. You want me to fight for you? I want you to stand with me, she answered. Her voice softened, but the strength behind it was undeniable. The empire of my kin will not stop. They will hunt me until my light is gone. But with you, I can be more than a fugitive. Together, we can take back what was stolen. Aaron's chest tightened. He looked at her, at the faint glow of her skin, the fire in her eyes. She was not asking out of weakness. She was demanding out of destiny. But he shook his head slowly. You don't understand. I'm not a warrior. I've never fought armies. I can't stand against an empire. Lyra's lips curved in a sad smile. Neither can I, not alone. But together, maybe. She raised her hand and placed it against the cavern wall. The alien symbols carved into the stone flared with light. The entire chamber pulsed, humming like a living heart. Aaron stumbled back in shock as the ground beneath them shifted and panels of smooth metal unfolded from the rock. This is our inheritance, Lyra said. The first bloodline left machines older than any empire. Machines that answer only to those who carry their gift. My people have forgotten them, buried them in fear, but I can wake them. Aaron stared at the glowing walls. You mean weapons? Not only weapons, she said. Keys to reshape this world. Energy, ships, even life itself. The power to build or to destroy. Her voice grew harder. And my family fears that power more than death. That is why they tried to kill me. They would rather rule as weak kings than allow a true heir to rise. The glow dimmed as she pulled her hand back. The cavern fell into shadow again. Lyra turned to Aaron, her eyes sharp as blades. I will not hide any longer. If they hunt me, let them come. But I will rise. I will take back the throne that is mine. And I ask you, human, will you stand with me? Aaron's mouth went dry. He felt the weight of her words pressing into him, heavy as stone. His mind screamed that this was madness. He was one man. She was an alien princess with enemies across the stars. None of this should be possible. And yet deep in his chest something stirred. A fire he had not known he carried. He remembered her eyes in the dream. He remembered the scream in the wind. He remembered the promise he whispered to the abyss. If you live, I will find you. Now he had found her. Aaron met her gaze. If I stand with you, there's no turning back, is there? Lyra's voice was quiet but steady. No, there is only forward. Aaron exhaled slowly. Then he nodded once. Then forward it is. A faint smile touched her lips, not of joy but of resolve. The cavern seemed to breathe with them, the hum of the machines echoing their choice. Above, far beyond the stone walls, ships stirred in the night sky. The royals had felt the awakening. The hunt was about to begin. The cavern still hummed with the echo of Lyra's awakening. Ancient symbols glowed faintly on the walls, then dimmed again as if falling back into slumber. Aaron felt the weight of the moment pressing on him. He had agreed to stand with her, though the meaning of that promise had not yet shown its full shape. But outside, the world had already changed. Far above, sleek alien ships cut through the clouds. Their engines whispered like thunder, silver wings unfolded, carrying hunters of the royal empire. Their orders were clear. The cursed girl had awakened, and she must not be allowed to rise again. Lyra felt it first. Her body stiffened, her glowing eyes sharp with warning. They are coming, she whispered. Aaron tightened his grip on his rifle. His throat felt dry. How many? Lyra's gaze turned upward beyond the stone. More than we can fight here. But we cannot run forever either. If they find us in the cavern, we will be trapped. The words had barely left her mouth when the first explosion came. The ground shook violently, stones cracking from the ceiling. Dust rained down as a blast of light split the cavern wall. Through the smoke stepped armored figures, tall, cold, eyes burning with blue fire. The royal guards. Their armor shimmered like polished glass, their weapons glowing with cruel energy. Aaron's heart raced. He raised his rifle, the weapon small and almost fragile compared to the alien technology. Still, his hands were steady. The leader of the guards stepped forward, voice booming. Lyra of the old blood. You should have stayed dead. Lyra's chin lifted, her glow brightening. You tried to kill me once. You failed, and now you fear what I will become. The guard sneered. You are no queen. You are a curse. Before Aaron could blink, the guards raised their weapons. Blades of pure light hummed to life. Energy bolts hissed through the air. Move! Lyra shouted. The cavern erupted in chaos. Aaron dove behind a stone pillar as beams scorched the walls. He returned fire, his rifle barking, sparks flying as his bullets glanced off alien armor. His weapon could not pierce their suits, but it slowed them, forced them to spread out. Lyra raised her hands. A pulse of blue energy rippled outward, slamming into two guards and throwing them across the chamber. Her power flared, but Aaron saw her stagger, her face pale. She was still weak from her long sleep. Aaron, she called. We must reach the surface. He fired again, then grabbed her arm. Together they sprinted toward a narrow passage at the back of the cavern. Energy blasts lit the darkness behind them, each strike shaking the ground. The tunnel was tight, forcing them to move single file. Aaron led, rifle ready, while Lyra followed, her glow lighting the walls. Their footsteps echoed as shouts of the guards chased them. Can you seal this tunnel? Aaron asked, breath ragged. Lyra pressed her palm against the stone. For a moment nothing happened. Then the walls rumbled, metal veins glowing faintly. Stones shifted, collapsing behind them. The tunnel sealed with a roar of dust and rubble. Aaron coughed, waving smoke from his face. That'll slow them down. Lyra's eyes narrowed. Not for long. They will cut through. We need to keep moving. They pushed deeper until the tunnel opened into a high ridge overlooking the valley. The night sky spread above them, stars sharp and cold. In the distance, alien ships circled, their searchlights slicing across the cliffs. Aaron's chest tightened. They're everywhere. Lyra stepped forward, her eyes glowing brighter. Then we fight smart. Before Aaron could reply, a beam of light cut across the ridge. A ship had spotted them. Its engines roared as it descended, doors sliding open. More guards dropped, their weapons ready. Aaron's heart pounded. He fired, forcing them to scatter. But their return fire was relentless, burning through stone. Lyra lifted her hands again, summoning her strength. Blue fire burst from her palms, striking the ground in front of the guards. The blast sent them flying, armor cracking under the force. But the effort drained her. She dropped to one knee, gasping. Aaron rushed to her side. Stay with me. Her voice trembled but held fire. I cannot stop. If they take me now, everything is lost. Aaron's mind raced. He scanned the ridge, eyes catching on a narrow path leading down toward the valley floor. Dangerous, steep, but it might give them cover. Come on, he said, pulling her up. This way. They stumbled down the path as the ship roared overhead. Beams of light chased them, cutting across the rocks. Aaron shielded Lyra as blasts struck around them, heat searing the air. At last they reached the bottom, slipping into the shadow of the cliffs. For the moment, they were hidden. The ship circled above, searching. Aaron leaned against the rock, breath heavy. We can't keep running like this. Lyra's eyes glowed faintly in the dark. No, we must turn the hunt. If they chase us, let them chase into their own ruin. Aaron frowned. What do you mean? Lyra touched the stone wall beside her. The ancient symbols flared once again, faint but alive. My ancestors built more than machines of war, she said. They built sanctuaries, places hidden even from the Empire. If we reach one, I can wake what sleeps there. Aaron stared at her, torn between awe and fear. And then what? Then, Lyra said, her voice steady, we stop running. Above them, searchlights cut through the night, closing in again. The hunt was far from over, but Aaron knew one thing. The fight had truly begun. The night was heavy again, just as it had been 15 years ago. The wind screamed across the jagged cliffs, carrying the same cold taste of dust and silence. But this time the valley was not empty. Lyra and Aaron stood at the edge, their figures small against the vast darkness. The abyss stretched below, the same abyss that had swallowed her once. Lyra stared into it, her glowing eyes hard, her face carved with memory. "This is where they tried to end me," she whispered. Her voice carried no fear, only fire. Aaron glanced at her. He could see the weight she carried. The scar of betrayal was etched deep, but so was her resolve. He tightened his grip on his rifle. "Then this is where you take it back." The words had barely left his mouth when a low hum filled the air. Lights flickered in the sky. Alien ships emerged from the clouds, sleek and sharp, descending like predators. Their engines roared, shaking the ground, and then they came. Dozens of royal guards in shining armor, their weapons blazing. They spread across the cliff surrounding the pair. At the center, stepping forward with a cruel smile, was the royal leader, the same figure who had given the order 15 years ago. His robes fluttered in the wind, his eyes burning cold. "Lyra," he said, his voice echoing over the stone. "The cursed child returns. You should have stayed dead." Lyra's jaw tightened. "You fear me still? That is why you came with an army," the leader sneered. "I do not fear you. I fear what you carry. That old fire must be extinguished once and for all." He raised his hand. "This time you will fall into the abyss and no one will find you." Aaron stepped in front of her, rifle raised. "You'll have to go through me first." Laughter rippled through the guards. To them he was nothing, a human, small and fragile against their weapons. But Aaron did not flinch. His heart pounded, but his feet stayed firm. Lyra placed a hand on his shoulder, her voice low but fierce. "We fight together." The battle erupted. Energy bolts streaked through the night, cutting the air with fire. Aaron dove for cover behind a jagged rock, returning fire. His bullets sparked off alien armor, but he aimed for weak points, the joints, the visors. 2 guards fell, staggering back into the abyss. Lyra's power flared brighter than ever before. Blue energy burst from her hands, sweeping across the cliff. Guards were hurled into the air, their weapons shattering as they hit the rocks. But the effort shook her. Aaron could see her knees trembling, her face pale. The leader stepped forward, blade of pure light glowing in his hand. He moved with speed that seemed unreal, striking at Lyra. She blocked with a pulse of energy, sparks exploding where the 2 forces collided. The clash lit the cliff like a storm. Aaron fought desperately, keeping the other guards at bay. He fired, dodged, and struck with the butt of his rifle when they came too close. He was outmatched, but he refused to fall. Every shot, every strike was to buy Lyra time. Lyra's glow grew brighter with each clash. The leader snarled, his strikes faster, stronger, but she met him with equal fury. Her voice rang out, sharp and unyielding. "You threw me into death, but I am still here. You called me cursed, but I am your end." With a scream, she unleashed her full power. The cliff shook as blue fire surged outward, a wave of raw energy blasting across the battlefield. Guards were thrown like leaves in a storm, ships above buckling under the force. The leader staggered, his blade cracking under the impact. Aaron shielded his eyes from the blazing light. When it cleared, the cliff was scarred, the abyss roaring with echoes. Only a handful of guards remained, broken and retreating. The leader knelt, armor cracked, eyes wide with shock. Lyra stood over him, glowing like a star, her chest rising with heavy breaths. "You feared the old blood," she said. "You should have feared the new." With a final burst, she struck. The leader was hurled backward, his body crashing into the abyss. His scream faded into the darkness just as hers had 15 years before. Silence followed. The wind carried the smoke away. The ships above retreated, engines whining as they fled into the clouds. The cliff, once cursed, now stood as witness to a new fate. Aaron lowered his rifle slowly, his chest heaving. He turned to Lyra. She was still glowing, but her light softened, her strength drained. She stumbled, and Aaron caught her before she fell. "You did it," he whispered. Her eyes met his, weary but fierce. "No, we did it." Together they stood on the cliff. The place of betrayal had become the place of victory. Lyra, once hurled into darkness, now rose in light, and beside her was the human who had given her the strength to rise. The night sky stretched wide above them, no longer heavy with fear. The old wound of the cliff had been healed, not by silence but by fire. The battle was over. The cliff that had once been a place of betrayal now lay scarred by fire and smoke. Broken weapons glowed faintly among shattered stones. The bodies of defeated guards were scattered across the ground, some fallen into the abyss, others crawling away into the shadows. Above, the night sky stretched wide and quiet. The royal ships were gone, fleeing back into the dark clouds. Lyra stood in silence at the edge of the cliff. Her glow was faint now, soft like the last flame of a candle. She swayed on her feet and Aaron kept a steady hand on her shoulder, ready to catch her. "This place tried to bury me," she whispered, her eyes fixed on the abyss. "But I have risen." Her voice carried strength even through her weakness. For the first time in 15 years, she stood not as a child thrown away, but as a queen who had survived. Aaron looked at her, his chest heavy with pride and worry. "You nearly burned yourself out." Lyra turned her gaze toward him, a faint smile touching her lips. "Light is meant to burn. If it does not, it is wasted." Aaron shook his head with a half-smile of his own. "And here I thought humans were the reckless ones." The wind carried their laughter softly, a fragile sound in the aftermath of battle. But the night was not finished. In the distance, horns echoed. Across the horizon, lights appeared, lanterns, fires, voices. More ships hovered, but these were different. They did not come with weapons raised. Instead, alien civilians poured forward, their eyes wide, their voices rising in shock. The people of the Empire had seen the storm from afar. They had felt the tremors, the fire, the clash that split the sky. Now they came to witness the truth with their own eyes. Whispers spread through the crowd as they reached the cliff. Lyra, the lost princess. The cursed child alive. Lyra straightened her back. Though her body trembled, her gaze was steady. She stepped forward, her voice carrying across the valley. 15 years ago they hurled me into this abyss. They called me a curse. They feared what I carried. But tonight you have seen the truth with your own eyes. The curse did not end your rulers. Their fear did. The crowd murmured, some nodding, some bowing. Others watched in awe. Aaron stood beside her, silent, but his presence gave her strength. She was not alone. Lyra raised her hand, her glow flaring faintly. "I am the last of the old blood, but I am not alone. This human stood with me against your king. Together we fought, and together we won. He is not of my people, yet he risked his life for me. This is what my family feared, that I could build bridges where they built walls." Aaron's heart pounded at her words. He had never asked for titles or glory. But in this moment, standing beside her, he felt something greater than fear. Purpose. Lyra's voice grew stronger. "The age of fear is over. If I rise, I will not rise as a queen of shadows, but as a queen of light. Not to rule above you, but to rise with you, human and alien, together." For a long moment, silence hung heavy over the cliff. Then slowly voices rose. First a murmur, then a cheer, then a roar that shook the air. The people fell to their knees, raising their hands in respect. Aaron exhaled, a smile breaking through the exhaustion. "Looks like they believe in you." Lyra turned her head toward him. Her glow brightened softly. "No," she said. "They believe in us." The dawn came slowly. The first rays of sun painted the cliffs in gold. The valley that had once been cursed now looked alive, shining with new light. The abyss itself, dark and endless, seemed less frightening in the warmth of the rising day. Lyra stood at the edge, the sun's glow mixing with her own. She whispered almost to herself, "They tried to end me here, but this is where I begin again." Aaron stepped beside her, resting his rifle across his shoulder. He looked at the horizon, where ships of the fleeing royals vanished into the distance. What happens now? Lyra's eyes narrowed, not with fear but with determination. Now the Empire will return. They will gather more armies. They will not forgive what we have done. Aaron raised a brow. "That sounds like trouble." Lyra smiled faintly. "It sounds like tomorrow." She turned to him fully then, her hand brushing against his. "I was cast into darkness, and yet I survived because I believed I was not alone. You proved me right. Whatever comes next, we will face it together." Aaron met her gaze, steady and certain. "Then let them come. We'll be ready." The sun climbed higher, burning away the last of the shadows. The people below still cheered, voices rising like a tide. Above it all, Lyra lifted her hand, her glow shining bright in the morning light. A new dawn had begun, and in that dawn, a human and an alien princess stood side by side. Not as strangers, not as enemies, but as the first of something greater.